Prices for consumer goods and services are rising at their fastest rate in decades for everyone. But inflation pains are most acute for retirees and near retirees who live on fixed incomes like Social Security. What can seniors do to combat inflation, rising costs, and high interest rates? Well, Eric Olsen has proven ideas. Eric heads the Helps nonprofit law firm, which helps low-income seniors and others who are struggling financially. In this video, the attorney explains concrete steps you can take to improve your financial footing when it comes to necessities like food, housing, transportation, healthcare, and more. Because Eric is in Oregon and I'm in Los Angeles, we'll conduct the interview over Zoom. Hi, it's Jeff Hoyt, editor-in-chief of SeniorLiving.Org, and today, once again, I have the pleasure of speaking with Eric Olsen. Eric is an attorney, and he's the founder of the Helps nonprofit law firm. Hey, welcome, Eric.
Good to be here with you, Jeff.
So every day, more headlines about inflation, and it really hits people hard, especially those on a fixed income. So what can seniors do about the rapid rise in inflation?
Well, inflation has been going up, fastest in 40 years. I guess there's a little bit of good news in some ways. So Social Security benefits this year were higher, and they're estimated to go up by roughly 8 to 9% next year. So Social Security benefits are tied into inflation, so they rise as inflation goes up, more so than pensions. Sometimes pensions don't move at all or move at a lot lesser rate. And this year is the largest increase in Social Security in decades, and it should be higher next year. But of course, there's always a lag between inflation and when your Social Security goes up. So yeah, that's what happens.
Right. And what about people who haven't applied for Social Security yet?
Well, okay, so the longer you wait, if you're able to do it, the better. Your Social Security will go up by approximately 8% per year, even without cost of living adjustment or inflation adjustment, by waiting. So the longer you can wait to draw on Social Security, the more you will get. Now, of course, that's balanced out that, if you wait too long and then you pass away, then, your insurance, your Social Security goes away. So you kind of want to balance that with your life expectancy and those kind of things. But the longer you wait, the more you're going to get.
So everybody needs a place to live, and housing is a big line item in anybody's budget. So you've got inflation, and then you've got its evil partner, rising interest rates as well. So, like, how does that affect housing costs, and what can seniors do about it?
Well, that is a big issue because sometimes when inflation goes up, rents go up, and make it difficult on the budget. And housing cost is the number one cost on most seniors' budget. We've noticed the impact it helps. We talk to a lot of seniors that are buying homes that may qualify to get a reverse mortgage. And reverse mortgages are more difficult to obtain because when the interest rate goes up, okay, because inflation sometimes is tied in with interest rate has gone up lately. So there's less money available on a reverse mortgage, which means a person might have to have more equity in a home to qualify for a reverse mortgage, or they might not be able to get as much as a line of credit or access to money from the equity in their home as they were before. So that makes it a little bit difficult for seniors. One thing seniors can always do, I think, they want to check the state where they live, and they want to search property tax reductions for seniors, and then type in your state. A lot of states have programs to either reduce property taxes or even eliminate property taxes for seniors that are lower income over a certain amount of age. And I suspect that I'll bet more than half seniors entitled to that reduction don't get it because they never they don't know about it. They no one ever told them about it. So that's something to check. And then the other thing they can do is look into low cost, energy assistance programs. Just energy assistance for lower income persons or seniors, and then your state where you live. And there's very likely going to be some help available to either help pay for utility expenses or maybe give a discount. So there's things they can do there that will help.
And to be clear, a reverse mortgage and a reduction in property taxes for seniors can help people who own property, but a home energy assistance program that your state or county may administer, that can help renters as well.
Exactly. If you find yourself in renting a place that's simply too expensive, you can look at getting a less expensive rent. And then the other thing I didn't mention was Section 8 housing, subsidized housing. If I was going to say if there was any one thing seniors can do that help on their budget, would be seniors to look into Section 8 housing, subsidized housing. There might be some misconceptions about subsidized housing, thinking that, well, this is really poor housing, it's not good areas, which isn't the case. It might be for certain parts of the country, but for the vast majority of parts of the country, it's not the case. Section 8 housing has to be approved by the federal government. They have to meet certain standards. And it's usually 1/3 of what your income is. And there's often a waiting period, can be a year or 2 years, maybe less. Sometimes it can be waived for a senior. So if you're in danger of being homeless, you can get up higher on the list. But like a senior making $1,100 or $1,200 on Social Security, they could get on Section 8 housing and have a rent payment of about 1/3 or 1/4 of what their income is. And even if you have a home and you figure, well, it's going to have to go away because if my husband passes away, then I won't be able to afford this house payment. You could sign up for Section 8 housing. It doesn't mean that if it's offered to you down the road, you have to accept it. But a lot of people might be very glad that they signed up a year or two ago, because when that year and two passes and they get a call, hey, you're approved for Section 8, and they'll say, wow, this just comes just in time. So Section 8 is something to do that can help conquer inflation for housing costs.
So basically you're saying, hey, if you apply now, even if it's a long waiting period, when it becomes available, you can take a look and say, I don't want to live in this part of town, or I don't feel good about this, or I'm happy where I am and I can afford it. And you can say no. So there's
That's right.
really there's no downside to applying for it.
No, and you can apply anywhere in the country. We have an email that we'll send to anyone that talks about Section 8. There's a link you get on that shows how to apply in different areas of the country. Sometimes they're all maxed out in different areas of the country, and they say they're not accepting applications, but there are always areas that are accepting applications. So we're happy to provide that. Helps us happy to provide that email with that link, so you can find out, hey, maybe I want to move where my kids are and I want to sign up Section 8 in that state. So you can do that.
And if you want to move where your kids are, you need a way to get there. So transportation also can be a large part of someone's budget. So what can seniors do facing inflation with about transportation costs?
Well, the second highest thing on people's budget normally, that and food, or medicine for seniors, but transportation is right up there. So as we get older, sometimes we might say, well, do I need 2 cars, for example? You're not driving to work every day, and maybe you can just do with 1 car. Okay. By eliminating a car, you're going to cut back on insurance, gas, maintenance, all kinds of things. And then the other thing is, consider getting a less expensive car than what you have. That's if you have a car payment. Sometimes seniors are saddled with a huge car payment, $300 or $400 a month, and only go to the doctors 2 or 3 times a month, if that. And especially where car prices have gone up, they could consider selling the car if there's equity in it, and actually looking at getting a less expensive transportation. car prices have been high, but they're eventually going to go down here. And I think there's some talk that they're starting to go down. And if we get into a recessionary period or stuff, they'll really go down. But you know, the other reason is if you got a car with a payment, you're required to carry collision and comprehensive insurance. There's three types of insurance. See, Jeff, there's liability, which we're all required to carry. That's if you get in an accident, that covers you if you hurt someone. And you can, if you're a senior on Social Security or pension or lower income, you may just want to make sure you get the lowest amount of liability required by your state. That's allowed, and that will save you money. You might say, well, gee, what if I get an accident and there's a whole lot of damages? Well, if you're a senior on protected income like Social Security or pension, even if you did get in that big accident and hurt someone and there was a problem and no one could ever collect from you because all your income is protected. So you could make sure you get the minimum on insurance, probably. And then, you know, if you own a car free and clear and don't owe money on it, you don't have to get liability or collision, especially if it's an older car. Some people say if it's over 10 years age, you don't need to get comprehensive or collision. So what collision is if you're in an accident, it pays for your car. But if you really want it, you could raise your deductible on your insurance. Instead of having a $200 deductible, you might have a $1,000 deductible, or even, I think you can even get more than that. Or if you got a car that's, you don't have money, you don't have to have the comprehensive insurance, which covers you if a tree falls on your car or you slide off on the ice in an ice storm or something like that. And, you know, it was not having to carry comprehensive and collision, only liability will save you almost 2/3 of your insurance costs. Okay. If I remember right, if you have all three types of insurance, the average is $2,000 a year. If you just have liability, the average is about $700 a year. So, you know, that can save you a lot of money on those numbers, you know, more than $100 a month. So if you got a car you can't afford, you might consider selling it, get a less expensive car. You know, how do you do that? Sometimes I'll tell people, get on Craigslist, runs good, owner only. There's ways to find good cars. And there'll eventually be a time when all of us won't be able to drive. Most of us eventually will have to give up driving. And sometimes, you know, we may decide we don't need a car. You have Uber, they have more transportation options now than ever before.
Good to know. And there's no downside into looking to see about a senior discount for public transportation, buses and trains as well in your town.
There's all kinds of benefits. I know even Catholic services sometimes have cars that will have people that will volunteer, take people to their doctors. It's easy to, you know, the internet is wonderful. Free transportation for seniors. Put your city and your state, and you might be surprised what pops up.
And you mentioned food earlier. So what can seniors do about the higher cost of food these days?
Well, you know, a lot of it's common sense. I will say this, you know, there is a program used to call food stamps. Now it's called SNAP, Supplemental Nutrient Assistance Program. And 3 out of 5 seniors that are entitled to SNAP benefits, okay, don't get them because they don't apply for them. So SNAP comes on a little like a debit card, and it can, you know, help pay for your food. And so you could Google SNAP benefits and then get on there and do an analysis, or you can call and they'll do the analysis for you. Average benefit is over $100 a month. Then there's things like Meals on Wheels. There's all kinds of emergency food assistance, you know, seniors, farmers markets. You know, food is a big deal, but thankfully in this country, there's a lot of help that way. And so it's important to look into that. And then there's common things, sense things. You know, you can go to different stores in your community, and one grocery store, the prices will be, you know, a lot more than another grocery store. You know, I have a nephew that works at a grocery store where I live, and It's a pretty expensive grocery store. And he told me, Uncle Eric, everything is marked up 40%. It's a lot. So there are stores where you can go to find less expensive food. Okay. And then of course, um, cheaper cuts of beef, chicken instead of beef, fill up your freezer with things on sale if you have a freezer. I mean, don't dine out as much. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do health-wise that cut our food bill. But I guess the big thing would be if you're a lower income senior and poor or really down there, SNAP benefits are important.
And one of the reasons I enjoy talking with you so much and making these videos is you keep bringing up programs that a vast majority of seniors are eligible for, and they don't know about it. So we're just, I appreciate you getting the word out.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'll talk about one more when we're done here. Okay.
and then the other issue about something like what we used to call food stamps is that back in the day, you may have had to take out a special voucher and use papers, and you'd be worried about how that looks in front of other
Yeah,
neighbors and whatnot. But now that it's on a card, they don't know you're not giving a credit card. It just looks like a bank debit card, like anything else.
I'm glad you did mention that. But, there's no shame in being poor. There's none at all. And we don't want our seniors to go without, and we want them to have food. So don't be bashful. Please do it. If you see if you qualify and do it, it'll help make things a lot easier for you. And once you get on it, it's pretty much routine. You don't have to go in every month or anything like that. You're on it.
Good to know. And then you really can't talk about seniors and their uh, spending habits without talking about medical care. So what can seniors do about that? Even if you have Medicare, you still end up having to pay for things.
When you're 65, you can get on Medicare. Okay. And it pays a lot of your medical costs. You can get insurance if you need it, supplemental insurance, if you can afford it. But even if you have Medicare costs, I talked to someone yesterday and he was on Medicare, but he had a lot of problems, uh, and he had bills he couldn't pay. I told him, I said, well, you don't have to pay it. I mean, if you don't have it, you don't have to pay it. If it's your doctor, if you pay him $10, $20 a month, uh, on that bill, they're not going to kick you out. I don't see doctors kicking people off if uh, they don't pay the difference between what Medicare pays and what they're obligated to pay. They just don't do it. You need to pay maybe a little bit of something to show them good faith, but they don't do it as a habit. And then my wife was a nurse working with seniors for decades, and she always tells me that people should know about something called GoodRx. It's on the internet. It's a program where you can print something out, take it to your pharmacy, and it'll show you the cheapest cost for medications. And and I've used it for medications that I've taken, and there could be a dramatic difference. I mean, between $20 for a prescription versus $300 for a prescription. So it's GoodRx, GoodRx. And if you don't have the internet, maybe one of your kids or a friend can help you get on the internet, and you can type in your current medication, and then it'll push a button and it'll give you a comparable cost for pharmacies in the area where you live. And a lot of times GoodRx will be cheaper than medication that you might have that you have insurance for. Okay, you pay less for GoodRx than if you have insurance that benefits you for medications. So that's something to look at. Let's see what else.
Well, I've actually used
Yeah.
GoodRx, and it's not just for seniors,
No,
and
that's right. Anyone.
anyone can use it. So, and there's also some Medicare programs that you might be eligible for, depending on your income, such as the Extra Help program we've written about, and the Medicare Savings Program. So it's always worth asking questions and seeing what programs are out there that you're eligible for and you may not know about.
Right. I think you may have videos on YouTube that go into that.
Exactly. And then you also bring up if you have a large medical bill, I mean, you have to go. You can't not get surgery to save money. But if you buy a car and you don't pay it, yeah, they have every right to come and repossess your car. But if you get a hip replacement, I don't think you have to worry about someone coming and taking your hip back from you.
No, that's true. Not gonna happen.
So any other general savings ideas for seniors?
It'd be easy for me to say, make a budget and stick to it because sometimes it's hard for us to make a budget. I mean, you can kind of do it internally. You might want to check your bank account and make sure you're not paying bills or not paying debts that you don't need to pay. I mean, that's what helps us here for. Uh, what we what we do is tell seniors, hey, your income is protected. You don't have to pay debt you can't afford to pay. So if you have a bunch of credit card debt or other debt that you can't afford, you can stop paying that. And what helps does is we represent people under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act as their attorney so that creditors can't bother you anymore. And you can do it yourself. You can send what's called a cease and desist letter. Creditor has to leave you alone. So if you've got debt that you're paying that you can't afford, you don't need to continue to pay that. Okay. And sometimes if you get on your look at your bank, you'll find a payment going somewhere that you didn't realize where it was going. You might give up a membership. I mean, it might cut back on some, TV, or there's might be cheaper ways you can watch TV. You might need to cut out the cable and you can watch everything on the internet nowadays for maybe cheaper. Um, there's lots of little things you can do. And I think we did a video not too long ago about, how seniors that really don't have anything, they can live generally within their means and be happy. We live in a blessed country. We have things like SNAP, and we have subsidized housing, we have Social Security, and we have Medicare. So sometimes if we cut out these other expenses, we can live within our means.
And then if you need to, there are phone numbers you can call to the Internal Revenue Service because there may once again be programs that seniors are eligible for, like the credit for the elderly or disabled or the earned income tax credit that they can help you to do. They won't, when you fill out your tax forms, you don't get it automatically. But if you know to fill out that extra form, it could make the difference.
That's right. And that brings up another thing. I talk to a lot of seniors who are essentially poor or real lower income, and they may owe taxes. And a lot of seniors don't realize that you can get on what's called currently not collectible status with IRS. If you make approximately $2,100 or less and you're single, or about 3,000 or less and you're married, you should be within the range to be able to get on currently not collectible, so you don't have to pay the taxes to the IRS. I mean, if you have the money and you want to pay it, sure you can, but you don't have to cut back on your prescriptions or your food or utilities to pay the IRS. If you're lower income, poor or lower income, and you can't afford it, you can get on currently not collectible status. The government doesn't want you cutting back on basics, and that's why they have currently not collectible status. And by the same thing, as far as state taxes, the state tax collector can't touch your Social Security, can't touch your pension. You don't have to pay your state taxes. I mean, you can if if you can afford it, sure, we want you to do that, but they can't take your Social Security or your pension.
And if a senior has questions about that, how can they contact you at a helps nonprofit law firm?
They can contact us toll free 855-435-7787. What we do is we protect seniors from collector harassment. We educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. And that's why we're doing this video today. And we want any senior can call us with their questions. We ask them some questions, and we don't turn anyone away that needs the help we provide.
Great. Well, really appreciate your help and spreading the gospel of saving money today.
I'm glad to be able to help you here today.